Pivotal Game 5 in the NBA Finals. City tonight. The winner will have a stranglehold on the series. We'll make some picks after this quick break.
Summer starts now. The new DQ Summer Blizzard menu. New peanut butter cookie dough party, new picnic peach cobbler, and more delicious flavors. Start summer now. Only at DQ. Happy tastes good.
Pause for the facts. Classic first-timers. They don't know that nearly half of all used cars have been in an accident. But Carfax shows how accidents impact price, so they don't have to overpay. Unpause.
Oh, almost no accidents.
Shop the all-new Carfax.com.
I think we need a bigger yard.
With our credit.
Credit Karma can show us how to improve our credit for free. Then we can get a place with a bigger yard.
Yay!
Intuit Credit Karma. Download the app today.
They say you can't reinvent the wheel. They say a lot of things. In 1953, they said our whiskey recipe tasted perfectly fine. So we burned it and made it better. Maker's Mark. Make your mark.
Fellas, Nationwide is on your side. So we're here to help you get ready for draft night. On. Off. On. Off. On. Off. Why is yours the only one on?
You give, and you give. Now it's time to get with Straight Talk Wireless. You get unlimited data, talk, and text. You get America's most reliable 5G network. You get to choose who gets on your family plan starting at just $25 a line. Does it have to be family? It doesn't have to be family.
Get more lines and more savings. Switch to Straight Talk for plans starting as low as $25 a line. Find us at Walmart and StraightTalk.com.
You came looking for a light beer, and you found gold. Modelo Oro. A light beer with a clean, crisp finish. For anyone who expects more from their light beer. Modelo Oro, the gold standard of light beer.
Ally helps you save for the things you dream about. Fasting. We can automatically scan your spending to find you saving. Whatever you're saving for, we're all better off with an Ally.
Geico can help when you're locked out with their easy app and 24/7 help.
Dad, you don't have to make this so tough on yourself. Geico is sending someone to unlock her car right now.
Yeah.
Where's the one?
Whatever you need, get more with Geico.
Here are your keys.
If you're someone who says, if only there was a delicious spicy chicken sandwich at McDonald's, you should know. There's literally the spicy McCrispy. What's wrong with the world for you? Feel like it's like and it feels even better together. Disney thrills us like it's time to once again did the impossible. The biggest trophy in golf is on the line. Who's big enough to take it? The PGA Championship, Thursday through Sunday on ESPN and ESPN Plus.
Houston, summer starts here at Colo Toyota in Conroe. 0% financing for 60 months or $6,000 off MSRP on all new in-stock Tundra Limited Hybrids. Your choice, 0% financing for 60 months or $6,000 off Tundras. Only for a limited time at Colo Toyota in Conroe.
SUV season is underway at California in Conroe. New 2024 F-150 Super Crew is discounted $10,000 or lease for only $499 a month. A new 2024 Expedition is now discounted $10,000 with no payments for 90 days. Save your SUV season at California in Conroe.
Before you use AI to transform business, accelerate growth, predict trend, you need to begin with trust. Introducing Watson X Governance, helping you govern any AI as data, models, and policies change so you can scale it responsibly.
There we go.
Let's create AI that begins with trust with Watson X Governance. IBM, let's create.
It's the year's second major. It's right here on ESPN. The PGA Championship begins tomorrow, noon Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific. And our first round coverage begins at 7 a.m. Eastern on ESPN Plus, with alternative telecast beginning at 11 a.m. Eastern on ESPN2. The Thunder and Mavs play pivotal game 5 tonight in Oklahoma City with the series tied at 2. The Thunder are the minus 155 favorites to win the series at ESPN Bet, while the Mavericks are plus 1 we'll start with you. Who are you higher on right now?
Well, remember, Dallas did lose game 4 to the Clippers and came back and won game 5. So they're in the same exact situation that they were last first round. But he's a little banged up. OKC's a little better. Good win for them late. SGA was tremendous in the fourth quarter. You have to take Oklahoma City right now to beat the Mavericks. I think 7 games, but the health of Luka concerns you. I have to take OKC.
I agree with you, but I want to thank Shea Gilgeous-Alexander because he's made me out to look very good. He's my vote for league MVP. He's looked absolutely sensational in these playoffs. He has shown up, no question about it. The flip side to this is this. Dallas can win this series. P.J. Washington, he's played well. I didn't anticipate that. Props to him. Kyrie needs to be more aggressive offensively, take over a little bit, which he capable of doing. He does in the second half. He's doing in the first half as well. Luka's health is the X factor, especially with Luka doing freshman in the way that he does. I can see this going 7. I can see the Thunder winning in 7. But remember, that's Luka and Kyrie in a game 7. Wow, that's dangerous. And that's very dangerous. Dallas can win this series. This is a pick-em series, but I'm gonna still go with the Thunder because they got home court.
Who wins game 5 tonight?
Thunder. I agree. I think you're going to have 2 game 7s. I think you're going to have the Sunday 3:30. He'll be on his NBA countdown. Knicks Pacers. And remember, the Dallas Oklahoma City game 7 is Monday night.
Right. We now have countdown. Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday.
Got it.
Good for you. That's that game's every night.
Who would be a tougher matchup in the conference finals?
For the Denver?
Yeah.
I think OKC would do. I think OKC's got a little different.
They have no answer size.
Well, they don't. But he's going to score anybody anyway.
If Luka was healthy, I'd say Dallas. But with Luka
I would say OKC. OKC. You got a good finish here. You know, the Knicks Pacers. You guys are nuts on the Knicks. Pacers are going to win game 6.
Listen, I think Pacers have a really good shot of winning game 6. I'm going with my Knicks to win this series, but I'm fully aware Knicks to lose game 6.
We got 20 seconds left. Any final thoughts from today's show?
Final thoughts from today's show. Looking forward to the NFL schedule and that Jet Niners. How about the Jets? They got to play out San Francisco. Now Leonard Floyd, who's the one who chased him down in Buffalo, is now on the Niners.
Let's just pray that Aaron Rodgers doesn't get hurt.
In the first 4 plays of the game.
Lord.
Beautiful people, and welcome to our Under the Thunderdome on this scheduleless Wednesday, May 15, 2024. This program starts now. Sports! Oh, wonderful. Sports are the greatest things of all time. Last night, it was a tough evening of sports watching for those of us in Indianapolis, Indiana, as the Pacers traveled back to Madison Square Garden to take on a Knicks team that they just smacked in the mouth on Mother's Day, and they would go on and lose by 30. Okay, so now the Knicks and the Pacers will do battle on Friday here in Indianapolis, Indiana, and if Big Dale Davis is running the engine before that game starts, we all know what's going to take place, and that's a Game 7 back in New York, which seems to be an impossible place to play.
Yeah.
Now let's go away from the NBA. Let's go to the W. Well, everybody's watching the WNBA game last night. Why is that? Well, Caitlin Clark is making her debut for the Indiana Fever. And I know there's WNBA enthusiasts and people that have been watching the W for years and years. And that particular league certainly deserves a lot more love and has deserved a lot more love than it has gotten over the entirety of its existence. The rookie salary is only $78,000. That's less than an entry salary at this particular company, so we don't love that is certainly the case for the WNBA, but can't wait to watch it continue to grow and continue to build, and more superstars coming out of college women's basketball going into the W to make it a sport that'll be able to be heralded as one of the top 5, top 6 leagues in the United States of America. We're on our way there.
Hell yeah.
And then Isaac Bennett, this little rat bastard piece of shit, wanted to make the whole thing about himself. Gives Caitlin Clark 2 phantom fouls early, 2 calls early. She had 10 turnovers. And she's playing with 2 fouls early since the first 2 minutes of the game because some asshole wanted to say, this ain't how college basketball, this is the WNBA. Welcome to my league. There are people talking about, well, she didn't play that great. She was like 3 shots away from having 30 in her debut. Most 3-point shots made in the history of the WNBA in a debut performance. And this is, I think your microphones are all on in the back. We can hear everything you're saying. You guys are doing great work back there. Though I want you to know that. Caitlin Clark gets her first points after a steal, has a layup.
And I'll say this about Caitlin Clark's debut. She has enough speed. She has enough intelligence.
Right.
She has enough ability.
Right.
And her three ball started hitting a little bit later than everybody expected because she had a couple step backs in the first quarter that didn't fall. She had a runner in the first quarter that didn't fall. She had another close one that didn't fall. Those all right. Well, she had 32 points. That's what she would have had. Instead, she had 20 in a loss. And I learned from watching this, and even though I live in the great city of Indianapolis and the great state of Indiana, that Fever team was 13-27 last year.
Yeah, it's tough.
They didn't number one overall pick for a reason. I didn't know.
Okay.
As I was watching, I was thinking to myself, oh, no, we're not just going to go win this whole thing. I was sitting next to the Las Vegas Aces, the back-to-back champions, at the NBA All-Star Celebrity Game, and I was looking them right in their face. Didn't know who they were. Right in their face, I was saying, it's over. Good luck. Have you seen what she did at Iowa with a team that we didn't think necessarily had as many superstars as some other college basketball teams? Once she gets into the WNBA, playing with these WNBA players, it's only going to be a matter of time before the Fever might take a little bit.
Sure. Just a bit. No doubt.
The Aces maybe win.
Maybe.
I'm not sure.
Maybe.
I might have been speaking out of pocket. I might not have known exactly what I was talking about. But what I saw last night is Caitlin is going to figure it out.
Yes.
Okay. Boston has 1-2. They're going to be phenomenal. I like the way Leah Boston's talking to her going into halftime. It does feel like a good relationship, but a lot of things are going to change on that Fever team. Okay, we're going to have to realize that we got the one, and let's start doing a lot of things. Are going to have to change.
Well, Tony.
That's one half of the hammer done. Cowboys, Tony Diggs. Listen, one game. We're one game in this. Thomas Timson at Boston Connor at Ty Schmidt. Everybody in Iowa was watching that game last night.
Yeah,
I was watching that game last night. As soon as she went to the bench with 2 fouls after missing a couple shots, everybody changed the channel. I assume the ratings are going to go. They're playing in a building that hadn't been sold out for the Sun since 2003. Why were they doing that? Why was that happening to the people that hit Caitlin Clark? Why do you think that building was sold out?
Double deuce.
Bingo! Bingo! Oh, they're playing in bigger arenas whenever the Fever come to town. Why is that?
Double deuce.
Oh, bingo! Did anybody tell Isaac Bennett, the ref, that called 2 phantom calls? She was the only one that had 8 fouls. And they were bullshit calls. She started this entire thing. So I don't think it was necessarily the dream start for Caitlin Clark. Or for the Fever. But there's going to have to be some figuring out that I guess takes place that I could have never accounted for because, once again, I've never watched a WNBA game, even though I assumed I had it figured out. Which is part of the problem.
Yeah, hand up. I had not either. Okay, but I am.
It's a different sport than women's college basketball. I love women's college basketball.
Listen, I could watch Iowa women's basketball play.
Ball.
Yeah, exactly. 7 days a week. And I don't want to get on you. I mean, you mentioned it. We're one game into the season, okay? So we should pump the brakes a little bit. But that's not what we do. We tend to come in and overreact because we're passionate fans. Okay? We love our Indiana Fever.
Right.
We love them.
Yes, we do.
And I love Caitlin Clark, okay? So I just want to say we may need to consider a coaching change. What? I'm not. Listen,
First game?
Yes.
First game? We're less than 8 hours removed from the first game.
If you watch that Iowa team, they are running gun. They just up and down the court, up and down the court.
3/4 length.
Exactly. We're trying to get as many buckets and as many shots up as possible. And then I see the Fever last night, just this slow, methodic pace. Listen, Coach Bluter just retired. Okay, the winningest coach in women's Big Ten history. I don't know. Does she maybe want to come up to Indiana? And Coach Capler. I'm just saying.
Can you imagine how pissed everybody would be?
God, yes.
Everybody would be so mad. Caitlin Clark, she's like LeBron. Just gets coach, she's fired. That's what happens in there. And I don't think that's the case. I don't even know our coach's name.
Me either. It's not Lisa Bluter.
We've seen Caitlin play in Bluter Bowl.
Exactly.
And it was electrifying, kept me on literally the edge of the seat for the entire game.
Yeah.
Last night was tough. I think we're all going to have to get used to a brand new style of women's basketball. Obviously, somebody on the Sun became the 5th leading scorer in the history of the league last night. Yeah. We're smooth. We're talking about there's some bucket getters on that other team that I've never heard of.
There are a lot of good players in stuff. Which we're finding out, as we go along here as new fans of the W.
As season ticket holders, multiple of us on this stage for the Indiana Fever. We were watching that game last night. We're excited to be along for the journey. Can't we go from 13-27 last year? Did we know that was the record?
I don't know. We have no more pick, but
We didn't know.
where we
We got a little bit to go.
Yeah.
Seems like we got a little bit to go.
That ref has to go. If you're commissioner of the Dub, that ref has to go. That's worst case scenario in the debut of Caitlin Clark is to give her 2 quick fouls. That cannot happen, no matter what.
2 quick bullshit fouls.
Yeah,
Terrible ones.
Like, not even, like, the one, she must have got her in the head, and then they should have been like, I don't think she even touched that girl. Okay, so the first call, you just want to get one out, you want to make a call, you're a ref. Now, not like what's going on in the NBA, you know, where Scott Foster and Teddy Peters think the people are out to watch them playing a game out there. And then let alone what happened in hockey. We're going to have an official state of the officials here in a matter of like 20, 30 minutes or so to really break down what's going on with these refs all of a sudden. And I think, we'll kind of echo the sentiment of what Roger Goodell said whenever we and others have pressed him about having full-time refs. He said, well, I've seen what full-time refs do in these other leagues. And are they perfect? I don't know. You tell me. We're trying to get better, he said. We're trying to utilize technology, but also we don't know if just full-time is the right answer because some of these other leagues have full-time. And they seemingly are asked. Not all of them. There's always good refs. But seemingly Isaac Bennett, we need his ass kicked out off the tour.
Now.
Kicked off the tour. 12-year NFL vet. A man who only played corner now. A rapper with a new song debuting in 6 days. Ladies and gentlemen, Pac-Man Joe.
Yeah.
Pat, you watched much WNBA before this season? Do you know much about it?
No, only college.
Yeah,
Now
me
I'm
too.
watching WNBA.
Me too.
So the game is a lot slower than college. Like it's like a pro game. It's not going out there doing no huddle. College women's basketball is like no huddle college football. WNBA is like the pros. We're gonna slow this shit down and we're gonna work on 6 and try to get the matchup.
13-27 is 40 games. And we're doing math. How many games are the college?
Yeah, right. Yeah, I think.
Well,
What was Iowa won? I think 33-5 last year.
Because some people, we're talking making the football reference. I thought about this last night, literally, because like Chip Kelly comes into Philly, tries to do what the college thing does. You're not going to work longer season. Like, hey, you're not going to be able to get adults to do this. 35-year-olds to be able to do this for 17 weeks, then playoffs plus preseason. Like college is shorter, you got younger, but everything like that. It's like same amount of games as college. Somebody could come in there and run no huddle. It seems like I don't know if that's what the
More talent. NBA more talent. WNBA more talent.
See, I saw
college thing. NFL, you got 56 dogs.
Yeah.
In college, you might got 2 dogs.
Yeah, you're talking about more talent. I saw somebody try to catch a 3-quarter pass and threw hands, ball on face, ball go out of bounds. I didn't see any of that tonight. Well, I don't know what the hell's going on out here. So I think the Fever are only on the way up. But congrats to the Connecticut Sun on a big-time winning from that. They're good. They're good. They got scores. They do. Those refs, the Connecticut Sun also put Caitlin, I guess, in those positions to look like she potentially fouled, even though she didn't. So we got to give them credit for that. We'll be keeping track of the entire WNBA.
They'll figure it out.
Yeah, we paid a lot of money for those season tickets that I think have lost value since last night. I'm telling you what, the first game.
I looked on SeaGeek Sporting. Yeah, you get some good prices.
I hope the Fever, they lost all faith in you after one game. There's people calling for coaching change.
Ridiculous.
Stack those chips.
Stack them up.
Stack those chips, Fever. It's our era. And also, let Caitlin cook.
Yeah. 23s from her again.
Just let her. Yeah. If she wants to pull up, just let her. Who cares?
Come on, Lisa, come home.
Yeah. They're calling for a coaching change after one game, and that's just our passion. Well, we will stick by this team.
Keep it down. I'm probably with it.
See, turn mine on.
They'll come, Tony. They'll come. Just give it time. One game.
Now that you're an NFL vet, a man who probably does know a little bit more about the WNBA than all the rest of us. You went to UConn, obviously. Ladies and gentlemen, Dave Sheeball. You followed the W before last night, or?
Yes. I have friends that have played the W, Tina Charles, Bree Stewart, Renee Montgomery, so Maya Moore. So I've been following the league for a long time. Like, to your point, good team. Alyssa Thomas, I think she may be third favorite coming in to be the MVP. Obviously, Asia Wilson out there, who she had 30, 13, and 5 for her ace to start. So some good teams out there, some talent. College ball, I feel like the talent is kind of more concentrated at the top. Like it's much more top heavy. WNBA is more spread out. So it's definitely going to take some time. I think our win total was like 20 for the Fever going into this season. So that may have dropped a couple games. We shall see off our first performance. But Caitlin will definitely figure it out. This is transition. Carrington, a great defender on her last night. She's going to see that. They're going to have a game plan for her every game out there. So obviously her and Leah Boston got to get going as well.
She had 10 turnovers, and they were.
That's a lot.
That's right. Actually.
The people can't catch the ball. That's not her fault.
Yeah, she's also. We got no look passes happening. You know, we got some magic cooking. And Caitlin said afterwards, you know, it's just one game. We got to move on and do this. I assume she'll call it all a blur because everything. I mean, she sold out of arena for the first. Justin Fields is dead.
No.
Justin Fields is dead. Joining us now, ladies and gentlemen, is a man who might be able to tell us a little bit more about Tundage just killing Justin Fields here in this first hour of this scheduled release Wednesday, May 15th. Ladies and gentlemen, Michael Miller. Lombo.
How you doing, guys?
Hey, listen, Lombo. Whenever we saw the Pelicans when they drafted Zion, and they introduced him third or something in his first game instead of fifth, whatever, you know. And then when he got on the court, you could tell he was told like, "Hey, this isn't your team. Like, let's be scared to have you just passing the ball and everything like that." Why don't organizations just say, "Hey, listen, sure, okay, what do you want to do? How do you want to play? What do you want?" Is that because obviously Caitlin Clark is not in a position to give those answers at the W? You don't want to put too much. I think what the Pelicans told us is like, we don't want Zion to feel like he has to carry the entire city. Yeah. But I think some of these stars, and I'm not saying Zion at the time was ready for it, but like Zion coming into the NBA, like, this is next the guy only one name needed, and he is a star. He's able to do this entire thing. Caitlin coming into the WNBA, it's like, hey, listen, higher ratings than everything she's a part of. I know there's other good players. I don't think they were on the FIBA that sold out the Connecticut Sun building for the first time since 2003. But I know there was other good players around women's college basketball. We were all watching. We enjoyed the storylines. How come there isn't that move, you think, from a franchise or a program just to go to a rookie like, hey, we need you to do everything? Is it too much too quick, you think? We need to ease into it, maybe? What do you think is the lead?
Well, I think any great player, you know, shows himself or herself really quickly, and I don't think you need to worry about that. Clark is a great player. She's going to show herself, and the other players are going to see her greatness and her talent and respect that. And then she's got to kind of get involved. You can't lead unless you've earned it, right? You can't come in and practice and lead without having some skins on the wall. It takes a little bit of time to develop that. It took Michael Jordan some time. I'm sure, you know, when you watch the NBA, you see guys, you know, that have been able to do that because of their play. And I think eventually in 2 or 3 games. Now, as an executive, I think you have to recognize what Clark can do and build a team around her and her skill set. That's really important. Just like the Minnesota Timberwolves have built a team around the greatness of Anthony Edwards, and they've kind of filled that in. Tim Connelly has done a really good job of that. You know, now I know they're down 3-2 to Denver, but that's the job of a general manager, is to find a great player and then accentuate the great player's strengths. And then it allows the role players to have their strengths. So it's a twofold issue, but I fully expect her to show her talent, and the players will respect it. If you just give it to them, the players are always going to wonder, why did you do that? Eventually they say, man, that's right, she's going to carry us.
Yeah, she'll earn it, I believe, is probably how. That's probably how Zion looked at it. Wendy in San Antonio had a similar situation early with a lot of players that were maybe on the Spurs last year, like, oh, this guy's the one, he doesn't understand it. And I'm not saying the Fever are acting like that towards Caitlin at all. I'm just saying, like, I mean, you're talking about every video that has come from training. Yeah. It's like they huge. I don't want to say they understand, but they probably assume the amount of pressure that this girl has felt her entire life, and they want her to feel welcome and everything like that. But I just want green light for Caitlin Clark.
Wear it. That's it.
I just green whatever. Hey, you do whatever the hell you need to do. And then Leah Boston is phenomenal. She didn't have a big game last night either. It's like both of them, if they're able to figure out, you're off and running. But whenever you say GM, the head coach, Tone's already calling for the head coach to get fired. One game into this, in this city. This lady, he's already called, get around.
Yeah, prom is great.
Yeah. And then Ty's like, Blue's available. We'll bring her up. Anyways, let's talk football. Tom Brady was at the Fox upfronts, and yesterday and the last couple of days have been big upfront time where all the suits kind of go and watch networks, put on big time shows with their most notable faces to try to explain why you should be spending your advertising dollars or your investment dollars with us as opposed to in other places. You know, ESPN and Disney had theirs yesterday. I was uninvited back after last year's performance.
What?
Yeah, I was going to get invited back. I didn't read the third-party script, and there was nothing about sports or business. I didn't read their script. I knew that was probably the death of my invitation to that particular thing. Never going to be talked about or invited back. But Fox had one, and they had Tom Brady and Michael Strahan up on this beautiful stage in front of all this money. And here is what Tom and Michael Strahan's interaction was, and I'm excited to get your take on what Tom actually said and how he's going to be there.
Now, I know you've been waiting to call your first game. Yeah. And I got a little something for you, man. I got some big news. It's huge news. Because I have a little something that you don't even know. The NFL schedule isn't out yet. But I know a little something about your first game.
I'm down for that.
Are you going to tell me?
I'm down for that. Give me like 30.
You want to know?
But I also think you see.
For the first time in 5 years, the NFL on Fox opens with the Dallas Cowboys. Week 1 is back to being an exclusive doubleheader window for Fox. So how do you like that news? The Cowboys.
They treat you like
the Cowboys on the
right. You're part of. You asked us to do this. We can do this, and also like we
given the competition for a long time, but in this new role, I know the Cowboys, how important they are. This network, they got great storylines. Come on, Dak Prescott. Let's see if he can finally come through. One of the great defensive players. Slip out.
That's what I'm saying.
Micah Parsons, what a great player he is, and Coach McCarthy. So I love covering them. I've been obviously going against them for a long time, and now I get to tell everyone how great they are.
Right.
That was really good.
I gotta remember the crowd there. Suits corny.
No, he got me. I'm corny. I'm not corny.
That crowd is the ensuingest crowd of all time. Scratching right where they itch with, I go against them all the time. They were the competition for a while. Were they? Were the Patriots and Cowboys?
I think what he's saying there, and this is where you're going to see the brilliance of Tom Brady, is because Brady is going to be able to tell you things about Mike Zimmer's defense on the Dallas Cowboys that no other commentator, with the exception of Coach Belichick or Mike Zimmer himself, could tell you. Because Brady, if you go back and look at wherever Zimmer's been, whether it's been Cincinnati or in Minnesota, Brady understands the defense. He understands what Mike's trying to do, and he's going to be able to explain that to the fans. He'll know it as well as anybody on the Cleveland Browns offensive staff. That's something that we rarely see in terms of from the quarterback's perspective. So it's going to be easy for him to understand what McCarthy does offensively in terms of the West Coast. He'll get that. But the insights in the Zimmer's defense, which is really what this schedule reveal is all about. If you're the Cleveland Browns, you're back studying Minnesota's defense with Mike Zimmer, Minnesota's defense with Cincinnati when he was the defensive coordinator. You want to understand how he adjusts to things. You want to understand his adjustments to the adjustments. You want to understand how he calls the game. And with Zimmer, it's very challenging on third down, which is where he's made his living and how he became a head football coach in the NFL with his complexities on defense. So he's got Zimmer up there, two guys that been in that system together for a long, long time. That's what we're going to get from. We're going to get behind the layers there. Because Tom's been educated on that. There's been so much time spent, as everybody should, on coordinators as you prepare for that. And I think that's what the schedule reveal really jumps into, because you want to be able to spend your off season studying something that you haven't seen before.
Okay, so I love hearing that there is a purpose and a good thing that can come from the schedule like this. So looking at the coordinates now, because we have no idea who the players are, who the final pieces are going to be at this exact moment. But we can't get a head start on training, which is what Tom Brady will be doing for his first game, and then I assume they'll give him a heads up the rest of the way on who's next week and he can dive into it. Last question for me about Tom calling games, and I appreciate you breaking that down because I think Peyton Manning, whenever he laid out about Bill Belichick joining the Manning cast, he talked about how Tom Brady told him about how Bill Belichick would bring him in on Mondays, and they would have a couple-hour meeting about what the defense coordinator is trying to do, where he comes from, in big situations, what he panics and he'll go to. If we show this is what he will be tending to like. Not just him, also really learn the defense from. Here's the rules of this defense, and he was like, he can't wait for that to be a part of the Manning cast. So Tom brings that. Do you think Tom's personality is going to be one that people are going to love immediately? Or do you think people are going to take a little bit to kind of warm up to this guy that a lot of America hated for a while because he was beating up on their football team?
Yeah. Well, I think a lot of it's going to come down to how he presents it. And, the challenge for anyone is to have a lot of information and present it in a condensed fashion quickly. And especially in between the time the huddle and the ball snaps. So that's where Tom's going to have to gain his energy and gain his intellect and condense it very quickly. Okay, here's what they're doing. Watch out for this. I mean, Romo became very much a cult-like figure early in his career because he was predicting plays based on formations because he had just got done playing. And I think the information gravitated people towards Romo. I think that'll be the same thing towards Brady.
Okay, I can't wait to hear him. I know Greg Olson, we're going to miss. I'm excited to see what shakes up with him, but Burkhardt and Brady should be phenomenal. And we need Brady and Strahan a little bit more.
Yeah, banter. Very good.
Wasn't it?
Maybe get him on that morning show that Strahan does.
So he does that on Good Morning America.
Yeah.
Which is on
ABC. Oh, okay.
Yeah, because I think Strahan was at Disney's up front last year. He's at Fox up front this year. Strahan's a dog.
Yeah, totally.
Strahan is a dog. Keep going, Strahan. Keep going, Strahan. Hell yeah. Darius got a question for you, Lombo.
Yeah, sticking with quarterbacks, obviously Jared Goff just got paid, just got broke off, and rightfully so. And obviously that's going to start that domino effect for these other quarterbacks kind of in line. What do you think the contracts of, Jordan Love, Tua, and even Dak, what do you think their contract numbers fall?
Well, I mean, you're a player. You got agents. You, Pac-Man, Pat, you all had agents. They all know when deals are going to get done, and they all know when they don't want to do a deal, right? So I'm sure Lee Steinberg, who represents Tua, knew the Toner brothers were finishing up the deal on Goff, and he kind of had a sense of what the deal is. So there's always that instance where, you're trying to negotiate a new contract for a player, and then the agent goes radio silent on you because he knows a new deal's coming in that you're going to have a hard time defending, right? And so this is what happens with deals. Water seeks its level. And so the tide gets risen all the time. And Goff getting $53 million, how it's broken down will be interesting. But I think it's just going to continue to go up because, look, we are in a very, very profitable environment. The NFL players deserve a lot of the credit. They get the money. And so that's going to put the level of increases going way up. And I think what Detroit's been able to do now by signing Goff, right? So for the next 3 years, Detroit won't really have any issues of who they're going to sign. Everybody will be a replaceable part after this, where they can replace a guy. They let Jonah Jackson go to the Rams. They brought in Kevin Zeitler to replace him. So they can do that on an economic level. But they got their 3 players that they needed, Sewell, St. Brown, and Goff, signed, so they can manage their cap moving forward without having to be like the Cowboys, which are strapped to a huge cap number.
Well, and you got rookie contract for Hutch still.
Yep.
Like that, which is going to be big. Hutch is going to take a big amount of money. Laporta.
That's the 3 years I'm talking about. That's the next one they got to get done, right? So they have some time here, and they just got to continue to draft well and replace players. And they got to be able to say no too, right? You got to be able to say, I can't afford you because I got to do this, or this is where we are. You can't have everybody. You have to make choices in a cap era.
Yeah, that's part of the business saying, hey, we like you. We love you, actually. We appreciate everything you did, but we're not going to be able to pay you what you're worth. So we are so sorry. Which sucks, because we chose this guy in your position instead of you, so you can certainly feel a certain way.
Yeah.
You can certainly feel a certain way if you would like about that, but this is just the reality of the situation. Like, those combos have to happen, right?
Yeah, and you want the player to get paid. I mean, that's important, right? If a player does well for you and you win, and he has to go somewhere else, you want him to get paid if you can't afford it, right? If you can't, it isn't like you're bitter about it. Like, I don't expect the guy to take less money. He's earned the right to get a contract. You just have to make choices. It's a business.
Yeah, it's not easy. It's not easy. Heavy is the head that wears the crown. Did you see a new painting of the head that's wearing a crown?
Yeah.
Interesting. Nonetheless, there is a head wearing the crown down in Atlanta that's certainly got a bit heavy, I assume, at times.
Yeah, Lombo, over the last couple days, Kirk Cousins done a couple interviews. He went on Busting with the Boys and basically said, they asked if he had any animosity towards the Falcons, and he pretty much said, like, hey, that does us no good. We're trying to win a Super Bowl. And then he did a press conference where he mentioned that the Falcons called him right before the pick and kind of just said, hey, we're taking a quarterback. End of discussion. There really wasn't any back and forth there. Obviously, you had some thoughts about that and Super Bowl winning GM Terry Fontenot. In your words, now that we're a couple of weeks removed from the draft, has your opinion on that whole situation changed at all, or how do you feel about it now?
I still can't figure it out. Like I'm sitting here in my office, I rack my brain, like, how does this work out? Well, play it out. Like, okay, if Cousins takes him to the Super Bowl in year 2, you have to extend Cousins after his 3rd year. You're going to let him just go? If Cousins fails and you've got to put Penix in year 2, you wasted $100 million, right? So I don't know how this works. Look, if you study history, like I'm sure the Super Bowl winning GM Terry Fontenot has done, is you realize this is hard to manage, right? This is really hard to manage. And the fact that you got 2 guys, you're trying to instill the culture within the quarterback. And it's hard to do it with 2 guys. It really is. Bill Walsh couldn't accomplish it with Steve Young and Joe Montana. Ronnie Lott went to him around week 13 of the season and said, Bill, you got to pick a guy. You got to make a choice here. We can't keep going on. Our team needs a leader. And so this just brought more conflict in. And so what we've seen out of the Super Bowl winning franchise like the Falcons is we've seen them just continue to do things that have nothing towards winning. I mean, they passed look, Bijan Robinson's a great player. We're not denying that. But they had a chance to pick Jalen Carter, a 3 technique last year. They passed on that. Right? They picked Kyle Pitts, a tight end, the 5th pick over. They passed Parsons in that draft. And then this draft, they passed whether it was Latua or Murphy to pick another offensive guys. And at what point do you realize that to win a Super Bowl, you were 29th in the National Football League in creating turnovers. You couldn't stop Baker Mayfield in the 2-minute drill at home when he went down the field. You're not 1 player away. And so for me, I still can't get my head around it. I just don't understand it. I don't think anybody can play it out. I know Kirk's trying to be politically correct in what he's saying, but all of us that understand team building are saying, this ain't going to work.
Kirk ain't a politically correct guy, though. You know, I just for a team, though, he would be. To build a team. I think the biggest thing with this, and if you end up with a good quarterback, I think we wasted $100 million, who cares? Like the Trey Lance, Brock Purdy situation, who cares? You know, we end up with a good quarterback, is what they'll say. That'll be their story if it ends up working out that way. Both those guys, that's our first OTAs right there. It's our first time in the building. You're talking about, whenever you're talking about, like, leadership and, you know, who's going to be running the team, it's like, that's not just in the locker room, it's like, equipment staff, training room, cafeteria, like this is Kirk's first rodeo with all these people. There isn't even like a set way of how he's going to pick balls for each game with the equipment staff. And it's like Penix, number 8 overall. Yeah. It's his first year as well. And it's like, we know Kirk, we know what type of human he is. We watch quarterback. We're incredibly entertained by Kirk Cousins and everything he is. But what if Penix is like this phenomenal leader that everybody talks about whenever he was in Washington, how everybody loved him? It's like, now you're making Kirk's job much more, not just in the locker room. I'm not talking about just in the locker room. You're talking about the fan base, you're talking about the training room, like everywhere. It's like, but Kirk's better, they're paying him a couple $100 million. So figure it out. You got to have to do that. And Penix, you're a top 10 draft pick. You're living your dream. Figure it out. But it is still pretty positive. Like, even if it ends up working out, we still will be like, how the hell they know it's working? Because there's so many other questions.
Well, I mean, look, just look at their team, right? Everything about the offseason comes down to asking yourself 2 fundamental questions. Why we won, why we lost, right? Why were we 7-10? And you can blame Super Bowl winning GM Terry Fontenot can blame Arthur Smith for everything, which they do. No, it's all Arthur's fault. Poor Arthur, he gets loaded up on. But the fact that they couldn't stop anybody in the running game. When you look at how many yards they allowed, they couldn't stop the forward pass. They gave up 27. They were 27th in the league in forced interceptions. Like to win a Super Bowl, you're gonna have to make plays defensively. You're gonna have to rush the passer in the 4th quarter. You're gonna have to get off the field. You know, and meanwhile, Penix is sitting next to you, and he's a valuable asset that you didn't use for a defensive player. It makes no sense to me, and you can spin it any way you want, but it really comes down to this: the owner. The owner wanted to sign Cousins, and Super Bowl winning GM wanted to draft a quarterback, and they're both happy, and no one else is.
Yeah, but if once again week 9 something happens to Kirk and Penix comes in and does great, there's going to be a full victory lap in Atlanta for how big of a play.
There's never going to be a victory lap, Pat, because here's the thing: when you build a team, you have to build your team starting with the day after the season all the way out. And so the real issue here is, yes, we need a quarterback. How do we solve that? If you're doing your job, you know Michael Penix. You don't have to go to Seattle in April and say, we were wowed by his workout. You could have sat at your desk in Flowery Branch as a Super Bowl winning general manager and watched that he could throw the ball through the roof. I mean, you don't need to do that. So when you're planning your team in February, you got to say, okay, here's how we solve this issue. We're going to sign Cousins. And now we're going to solve this issue with an 8th pick in the draft. See, that's called team building. And this is called grab bagging. Oh, we'll take this guy. We'll take that guy.
Okay. There you said maybe there's a positive to this.
No, I mean, we talked yesterday about revenge bodies and revenge thing. Obviously, when Jordan Love got drafted, we got back-to-back MVP years from Aaron Rodgers, the competition.
MVP, but
you mentioned, even them kind of coming on almost even ground. Obviously, we know Kirk is kind of more of a known commodity in the league, and Michael Penix is like, hey, this obviously went top 10. We know, Pat. We see these guys making throws, we're going to be looking at each other. Hold on, maybe 9 should be in there. So it is a tough spot you put the quarterback in, but at the same time, we had a bunch of backup quarterbacks playing last year. It's not like Kirk is coming off a healthy year. He's coming in banged up. I understand definitely what Lambeau said as far as building that team. But, I mean, I don't think anybody up here expects the Falcons to go on the Super Bowl run.
You go back to the
They do. Everybody does.
Oh, no.
Oh, look at the odds. No. They think they're one player. There's no similarity between Jordan Love and Aaron Rodgers because they picked Love in the 20s, right? They picked him in the bottom. You're talking about a top 10 pick.
Well, Aaron's also been there. Aaron's been there for 18 years at that time, or 17 years.
He was kind of disgruntled and
they just gave $100 million of Ben Franklin's out. Like they just gave $100 million out. Like seriously.
You talk about the Niners with the Joe Montana, Steve Young situation. Joe Montana told us that he said, let's put our salaries on the line. Let's compete against
easy.
Let's compete against him.
And Steve.
Obviously, that ends with 2 great quarterbacks playing concurrently after each other, which is obviously a beautiful thing, which is what Atlanta's hoping for. But in the time being, there will be a lot of questions answered as this schedule continues to roll out this evening and the NFL season actually starts. Now, off-season is filled with beautiful moments. Tone has a question, Lambeau.
Yeah, Lambeau, bit of a game here. What do you think someone wanted to do last? And we're talking about Bill Belichick, and that was, do you think he wanted to do the draft spectacular last, or do you think he wanted to do that shot with Robert Kraft on the stage, that Tom Brady's roast last?
I think he probably enjoyed being around you guys than the roast. I would think so. But look, I think it was awkward. It was uncomfortable. I haven't watched the roast yet at all. I won't. I haven't. But listen to what Julian said after the roast. I heard his comments because I love Julian. I listened to what he said. You could feel the tension within the building. But how could you not feel the tension? I mean, the 10-part infomercial that was produced on Apple was exactly destroying. I mean, I don't even know. I got to check and see if Bill was even in the office for those 24 years. It's kind of remarkable. I don't even know. Can we check his time card there and see if it got stamped? We might want to because he obviously wasn't there. And that game plan that beat the Rams in the first Super Bowl and the game plan that beat the Rams in the second Super Bowl, I'm sure that somebody from the Kraft family must have put that in and then got it going.
Well, that's the thing. Everyone's talking about how smart Bill Belichick is. That information was all funneled to him from Jonathan. Of course. So that was.
It had to be. That's why you have to go back. It's like the Kennedy. You got to go to the Warren Commission and look at the timestamps on the data collection. I mean, it's unbelievable.
Do we have any more updates on that whole thing? I saw you getting into it with somebody who had.
I always get into it with Posner. He wrote the worst book in the history. It's called Case Closed. It's filled with lies, complete lies. So we don't want to go down that road. My wife gets mad at me every time I go down that road. But here's
you are very passionate on that particular road, though.
Yes.
Most I've ever met.
Paving that road.
Yeah, you are in the front.
Yeah, I mean, I think we deserve the right to know. We lost too many people in Vietnam because of it, and they deserve the right to know. So, but that's a whole other situation. I just think, to me, one of the things you want to do, and I wrote about this for the Daily Coach, the Minnesota Vikings kept Bud Grant's office intact as an honor to him. He went to 4 Super Bowls for the franchise. He was, these players in Minnesota have no idea who Bud Grant was. They just know he's a guy that would sit outside the cold with no shirt on, with no coat on, That's all they know. They don't know what he did. But that Will family paying respects to him because of the contributions he made to the franchise that they didn't know when he owned it. To me, that's really classy. And to have that infomercial, I think is an injustice to the greatest coach of all time.
How about, should I also call him the greatest GM of all time?
Well, you can't say that because none of the players he drafted. See, Barmore just showed up there. He just went there because the campus was there. He liked Boston, you know. And Duggar just showed up there. Yeah, Duggar just showed up there too. It's amazing how they just got there. I don't know how the hell they did it, you know. And why don't you add underneath this little GM thing here that says, you know, over the last 10 years, the Patriots spent the least amount of money of cash of any team in the NFL. That's documented. That's fact. And why don't you put that underneath there?
Okay, there's a lot of other things that could potentially go on there, like, you know, the future Hall of Famers that are definitely right around the corner.
Yeah.
You know, they were drafted potentially by a guy who.
But he wasn't in the building. He was probably duck hunting or something.
Oh, okay. All right. Let's stick with that particular organization, though, because, you know, maybe that infomercial was just the ownership telling the fans, hey, we might have lost somebody. Okay, I get it. But the future is very bright. You have all the brands still here, and maybe this was just a work for their players.
Yep.
You know, just like this was a work for the fans. Just like when Rick Carlisle came out and said, small-town teams are allowed to win, too. Everybody said, wah, wah. That was for the players. That was for the fans saying, hey, listen, I'm with you out here. Maybe that's all the Crafts were doing because the Patriots seemingly in a great spot. Conrad's question.
Yeah, feeling great, Lombo. For 2 months, we talked about how Drake May has a lot to work on. Then Mayo says it, and now all of a sudden he stinks. What can you actually find out about these rookies at the rookie minicamp? Is there anything legitimate that fans or the team can take away in those couple of days? And when you hear something like that, a coach say, yeah, this player has a lot to work on. Obviously, it's heightened because it's Drake May. He's the third overall pick, and he plays quarterback. But what does that really tell you about their expectations with Drake May? And what can I, as a Patriots fan, walk away from this from? Like, yeah, we're still going to win the Super Bowl this year.
Yeah, well, we might want to temper that a little bit. But look, I think to me that what you can only really look for at these camps is who's in shape and who's not, right? It's like who's in condition. And then it's the job of the organization to educate the players about the difference between being an amateur and being a professional, right? And so, and that's, even though they're in an IL now and they're always professionals, there's a huge difference between being an amateur and being a professional. And it's the job of the organization to remind the players that, you know, when you come out, amateurs focus on the outcome, professionals focus on the process. Amateurs focus on the scoreboard, professionals want to win want to do something good every day. So there's these distinctions that you go through, right? That you have to educate what's the difference, because you're moving them from college where life was really fun and they were the stars of the campus into a world where it's a business. And we all know it's a cutthroat business and it's a difficult business. And it's the job of the organization to basically educate them. And that's what's really the most important thing about rookie camps. And for the next 2 months, the onboarding of these players is really critical. Teaching them what it takes to be a Patriot, teaching them what it takes to be a professional, removing them. Because look, a lot of these guys, you can talk to them, you guys have seen them, you've played, guys that don't take their schooling seriously. The difference between studying for pro and studying for the college is completely different. The time you have to put in. You're a professional now. You're not an amateur any longer. You're not going to stay on scholarship. You're here. And I think that's the real issue. And so you just have to be patient. And I think May will respond to that. I think Elliott Wolf will do a good job in drafting. I think Elliott's really good. I like Elliott. It's just going to take some time to get this collective together to see who they are. Because what you want to do, just like we started this whole conversation, you want to figure out who Drake May is and what style of play does he need to be most effective.
Now, Conman, I haven't seen the reaction Patriots fans, because I quote tweeted in the group text and said, this guy stinks. He's saying there's a lot to work on. He said, oh, Patriots fans are also responding to Drake May?
Well, not really, just because we legitimately talked for 2 months about it.
Yeah, and Belichick kind of laid all out. Belichick was the one that almost told the New England fans, like, hey, here's everything that Drake is going to have to work on to be in it.
Right.
And then at the beginning, people in New England, I think, were pissed at Bill for saying this, right? Oh, this guy's a hater. He's doing this entire thing.
So that part, actually, not really, just because they focused on like the fact that, like, okay, his feet are his biggest problem. Maybe that is something that is easier versus like his accuracy being a massive problem. But I think the biggest thing for the Mayo was people in New England Drake May was the only guy out of those top 3 quarterbacks that wasn't expected to start right away. So like
the idea that he has a lot to work on really didn't shake anybody because it was. That's what I'm saying. I feel like the table was already set. Yeah, exactly. For Drake May. The table has already been set for Drake May. Yeah, Orlovsky was pitching it since.
Warner said it.
Yeah.
And literally everyone who came on that was a quarterback said he's got some work to do.
Exactly. And like if you give this guy a year. Yeah. Well, that was Bill Belichick.
That's why they signed Jacoby Brissett for $8 million. They knew what they were doing. They didn't spend $100 million to sign a guy as they watched their player develop. They spent $8 million to do that.
Okay, we get it. Pac-Man has a question for you about a brand new program.
Yeah, the Giants did spend $100 million on their quarterback, and we just found out they'll be doing hard knocks. As a GM, coming off a shitty year, just got rid of Barkley. All the eyes on you. Are you for this hard knocks thing? And how in the hell does the NFL pick the New York Giants out of any other team that we could pick for content?
I think it's going to be great, Tack. I agree with you. If I were the GM, I wouldn't want it. But we're going to get down to the bottom line. Remember the rhetoric that was coming out that the Giants were wanted alt, and that's why they were trying to trade up. They didn't want the quarterback, which to me is kind of an indictment on watching their quarterback, right? Like, why wouldn't you want a quarterback? I watched Daniel Jones play. We need a quarterback. But they said, oh, no, we want the left tackle. But then they made no attempt to trade with Arizona when alt was still on the board. Like, they stopped trying to trade for the third pick once May went off the board. So it's a little bit of confusing. Maybe this hard knocks off season with the Giants will allow us to. You know, these hard knock things are dangerous for franchises. I think we've seen coaches who have been in this get fired because the fans see what their coach is doing and they're like, wait a minute, that ain't very good, right? This could be really bad. Like, you have to come out and, like, you want to show people that you kind of have it all together. It'll be interesting to see how this plays out. Look, everybody thinks they're going to win the Super Bowl in May. We'll see if their offseason that the Giants had this year is good enough.
Hugh Jack City, first person I think of. First scene of Hard Knocks for you, who we are a fan of. Right, he's been on the show.
Great tequila.
He's got tequila. You know, we think the first scene of the first episode of that Cleveland Brown after they lost every game before. It's him at a charity event saying, "I know I can win here. I can win here." And I'm like, I've never heard a coach say, "I can win." You know, any coach has said we or this is what we need to do, but like the way he was talking in the first scene of the first episode, I'm like, this doesn't seem like
How about his team? How about his team meeting? How about his staff meetings? Freddie Kitching became the head coach because he was the only one in that staff meeting that actually sounded like he knew what the hell was going on. Like, he got a battlefield promotion based on those meetings. That just shows you how bad it was, right? Like, and when you let those cameras in, look, I think it can go both ways. It can enhance you, but it can hurt you.
Yeah, but it's good for the fans to see, like, oh yeah, this team is inept.
Yeah.
Okay. Right. Exactly what I was talking. Because who was about to Haley, right?
Yeah. Todd Haley
was about to fight Hugh Jack because he wanted somebody to practice. Yeah. Hugh Jack said we can't be practicing, and he's like actually in the middle of the meeting, put like his hand on like the side and said, it's like, wow, this place is as dysfunctional as advertised. You're right, Wamba. I haven't even thought about that I assume GMs talk about you don't want to get Cleveland. You're going to get exposed out there.
Yeah, Haley had that record.
Oh, it happened way before, too. It happened back in Kansas City when Herb was there. I mean, they had a scene of Herb sitting in his office deciding on who was going to be his starting quarterback. I think one of them was, and neither of them, it was Brady Coyle was one of them, and Damon Heward, that he was deciding on which he's sitting there pondering it, and I'm sitting there watching it saying, you don't have a quarterback. There's nothing to ponder here now. You don't have a quarterback. Like, when you don't have one, you don't need to ponder. Like, let's just go on to the next guy.
Flip a coin. What were you going to say, Ty?
There was just that scene where Haley was like picking something to Hugh, and Hugh was like, yeah, well, when you're sitting in my seat, maybe we can do something like that. But he just completely shut him down. And yeah, I think a lot of people did think they were going to get into a fist fight at some point.
We were talking about this before we went on air with Pac-Man, who's a big Bengals fan. This wrist thing, okay? We talked to AJ had this surgery. D-Butt had this surgery. Somebody came out and said that no other quarterback has had the same surgery that he had on his wrist. This is more of a physical contact type wrist surgery or injury. And D-Butt told us right before we went live, like, the issue with it is that the blood flow is not really as good.
That was a part of it. That's what the doctor that did the surgery on me, because I played most of the season with injury. And usually, even if you don't get surgery, bone injuries will heal on their own because of the blood flow. but this one it didn't. So part of the surgery was like redirecting, some of the veins or vessels or whatever. So it'd be interesting to see him obviously take falls, and that's something he has to do every game as a quarterback.
How worried do you think, like, for an injury, let's say any injury that could be a lingering injury, especially at a massive position, and we know Browning is there, and he played well last year and everything like that.
Yeah.
Duke is thinking about that over there in Cincinnati with the obscurity of this particular wrist injury at the quarterback position, or having other backup plans, or do you just have to go all systems go, Joe's going to be able to make it?
I think they go all systems go, but what you guys brought up to me is interesting. Is if the blood flow doesn't get into his hand, does that mean his hand gets cold and, he doesn't have a real good feeling in it? I think that would be my concern listening to that report is, quarterback's hand on the football is all about his feel and making sure. And if it's cold because of the weather, because there's not enough blood flow that gets to your hands and you have blue things around your finger, that makes it very challenging. You can get hamburgers and all that.
Your fingers get cold?
That wasn't an issue. It's literally the blood flow to like those bones. And I would, much rather get a doctor on here to talk about it because I'm sure everybody's injured.
You're a doctor.
So it wasn't
DR.
My left hand compared to my right hand didn't get any, more or less cold.
How about the movement? Because AJ says he's.
Oh yeah, no, I've lost at least 50% of.
So that's what AJ said as well. 50%, and for those positions, it doesn't. Yeah. I'm not gonna say it doesn't matter. Obviously, it affects things like a jumper, maybe a golf swing. Yeah. But whenever you're trying to tackle or just catch, like you can make do. But with quarterbacking, like that's a flick of the wrist is a massive part of the entire thing. I hope Joey B can just have a year.
Yeah.
Where he can just be who the hell he is, which is an absolute savage.
Just the year.
Okay. Because the wrist thing is a little bit worrisome just because it's never happened before. Pac-Man has no fear.
No, I don't. Joey Brees is better than both you guys quarterback. But anyway, man, I was going to ask you this question. You feel way more than probably what Joey will fall with playing Gunner and doing all of that and using your hands.
Yeah.
You think it's going to affect them that much?
I mean, just the landing aspect, because you're going to break your fall, and you can't.
Nah, he's going to fall right on his face. Joey, we got to start working on just straight up facing. Just face bumps. Mm-hmm. Alarms.
Jiu-jitsu. He's got to take jiu-jitsu.
Yeah, definitely. He's going to take, actually, Taibo maybe. Because I think the best landing would potentially be left with no right.
Yep.
And you got to have that core stability where the double time go. He's going to have to. That's what he needs to get into.
Latua could show him the way.
Yeah, Latu's his name. Okay, so he's going to have a little bit of respect.
Go ahead. AJ, both of us, we played months with the injury. He didn't play. He got the surgery kind of shortly after. Maybe his recovery could be much better. But I mean, it's something to be concerned about because Joe Burrow, his career, even coming in from college, has kind of been riddled with injuries. You know the talent he has, but your quarterback out of your best abilities availability, especially at that quarterback position.
Last question here from me about the schedule release. Other than preparing for first coordinator you're going to play, and maybe are you preparing for the first? What should we look for tonight? Obviously, the international games.
I think a lot of it's like, okay. When you play that Sunday, who do you play Sunday? Who does Buffalo and Miami play the Sunday before that Thursday game, right? They'll know each other there. Those are always ones that you want to look at. How physical the team you have to play before you play on a short week. That's something that I always look into. You want to make sure that you understand that. And then you really have to do a good job on those holiday games if you have them, because it's going to be a short week of incorporating those games within your summer training camp so you have an idea on who you're playing there. And especially if you're Seattle and you're playing the NFC North, right? Nobody knows what Mike McDonald's going to do. So if you're Detroit, you got to get ready for Baltimore, who you really don't play very much. You got to get ready for the Baltimore defense, and you want to see that. And then you want to play new staffs early in the season. I think that's really important as they kind of get going because they haven't had a full season to get their programs in place.
New staffs, maybe new quarterbacks in new places. They're not going to be able to figure it out.
Look at Jordan Love. I mean, Jordan Love at the beginning of the year last year, before was really protecting him. And by the end of the year, he was developing them. And that was a huge difference. Remember, the Raiders beat him at home, and Love did not play well. He threw 3 interceptions in that game. They were protecting him, but eventually, by the middle of the season, he just exploded. And I think that's kind of for me, I want to play the Chiefs earlier in the year as they kind of go through their offense and changes what they're doing defensively. They lose Snead. The receiving room isn't different. That to me is what you want. You want to get somebody earlier in the season.
Okay, so I like where your head's at. I want the Chiefs in the middle. The middle, they get bored seemingly.
Yeah, are they undefeated in September?
Well, that's what at the beginning it feels like shows back
They
in
lost
town.
the Lions week 1.
Well, Baltimore and Cincy are both 4. Baltimore and the Chiefs are 4-1 in opening games. Both coaches are the same on opening day. But my point about KC early is, I think there's an idea that they're going to go back to becoming more offensive than they were. They still have to play the same way. They got to win with their defense. I'm not sure they're off. We don't know who their left tackle is going to be. The receiving room with Rasheed Rice, that suspension, if it happens, coming. So there's a lot of question marks there. They'll be well coached. They'll be prepared. There's no question. But early in the year, figuring out who they're going to be on offense has to be based on last year.
I love all this. Thank you. As we watch tonight and hear about the games leaking throughout the day, we'll keep an eye on all those things. As punter kicker, I want to know when we're going to windy places. Earlier in the year or later in the year. Debo, what are you looking at?
Cold game. Win all the cold games and then wins the bye week. Wins our bye week.
And you in Cincinnati, I guess every game's potentially cold. Where else are you looking for? Matchups?
Well, cold is the main thing. Like going to Kansas City or Pittsburgh, like late December, early January, because that wind off the river. Oh,
yeah, absolutely. How about matchups? How about matchups?
Oh, I don't know. Every week is a good matchup.
Yeah,
I love matchups.
You're going to get the dog.
Yeah, you're going to get a good
Okay, so that's not even okay, not even a thought. Ooh, are you looking forward to week 3? You're going to be taking, well, week 1 and 2, they got guys too. So, let's make sure we're taking care of all that. Hey, Lombo, we appreciate you for joining us, brother.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate you. Good luck.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, Michael and Barry. Can't wait for the inevitable letter from that author. You know what I mean?
Worst book in the history.
I hope so. I'll be able to tell you if they're lies or not, too. That's a good thing about nowadays. Everybody knows.
Yeah, you're right.
Everybody knows everything. I'm not getting into it.
There's arguments on both sides.
Stats on both sides. Stats on both sides of every argument. Not everyone. There's certainly some outright winners. We definitely agree with that.
Yeah.
And there's some antiquated thoughts that are potentially given during speeches by people.
Yeah.
And it's like, we can't let that sector make us feel any differently about us, but also we can't think that that sector of people is bigger than it actually is. That is it's always going to exist. Always going to exist. We hope not. We hope we get to a place where no assholes exist.
Amen.
Okay? That's what we're hoping.
No, we're not saying like the good ones.
We're talking like super duper rap.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Like just like people that are just on purpose, seemingly completely against every trend with common sense.
Trolls.
Dogs. No, there it is. But you're right. We do need some edge, shit talking.
Yeah. Soldiers.
Yeah, outlaws. Oh, we get that. But we're talking about just like people that are never just gonna, you know what I mean? There's never gonna be a whole. We're hoping for it, but we can't let those people think that they're not. Let's just we're all blinders on. Let's continue to. We learned that you people fit 2024. That's real. Okay, all right, great to hear. Never met anybody like that. Never had, but we know that exists now.
Yeah.
And now remember that.
Yeah. More knowledge.
Yeah, it is. That's not every Catholic, right?
No, I'm Catholic. I don't think about that.
Okay, so there's sectors of Catholicism.
Yeah, I mean, who's it? I can't remember. Someone came on. It's like college football thing. There's the lunatic fringe.
Okay.
In everything. Yeah,
in everything.
Exactly.
Okay.
Well, like you said, like there are probably very few practicing Catholics who are sitting through a mass that's in all Latin. Like that,
That was part when that was said, and that was, and obviously my wife and I had literally the most important thing that has ever come into my life, my daughter through IBM. So like, there was a lot of things in that speech that was being given at the most Catholic college I think that has ever existed to the most Catholic people on earth or whatever.
For sure.
From somebody that we know, obviously Harrison is a great ball kicker. I'm a fan of ball kickers, but like some of the things, like what are we even?
Well, like you said,
we don't exist.
Yeah, antiquated.
That's
but there are definitely people out there like that.
That was wild. Some of this. Man, wow. Still, I thought we had enough information.
Yes, it's true.
Yeah, I thought we had enough at this stage to kind of, but then he was like, I still listen to Latin masses. Those are like long, right?
Oh yeah, they taught that like when my parents were in Catholic school.
We're back next hour with more talk about.
Fellas, just like Nationwide has millions of people prepare for their financial future, I'm here to help you prepare for the NFL draft. Are you ready? On. Off. On. Ring ring is your future caller. Seriously, no one's going with the quarters in? People like this one. I get a lot of emails. All right, give me your best commission on it. Too much? Yeah, that's way too much.
At Domino's, we know there's a lot of pressure to tip these days.
Great step, bro. Now take a look at the screen real quick.
Which is why we want to say,
Thanks for the tip.
by tipping you back. Tip your driver $3 or more online and we'll tip you $3 to use on next week's order.
If you feel like things don't add up right now, you're not alone. So we've lowered the price on hundreds of your favorite products. Because when the cost of living goes up, we find new ways to go less. That's why we're here. That's a promise, not a promo.
Whoa, how'd you get your teeth so white? Well, you gotta use the right toothpaste. Dr. Campbell's? Give me that smile. My toothpaste isn't whitening. Basic toothpaste doesn't whiten like Crest 3D White. Crest 3D White removes 100% more stains for a noticeably whiter smile. Oh, that smile. New personal best. The #1 teeth whitening brand in America. Crest.
Did you know there's a way to cut your dishwashing time by 50%? Try Dawn Power Wash Dish Spray. It removes 99% of grease and grime in half the time. Dawn Power Wash has 3 cleaning boosters not found in traditional dish soaps that remove food and grease 5 times faster. And because it cleans so well, you can replace multiple cleaning products for counters, stoves, and even laundry stains. Try Dawn Power Wash Dish Spray. Brand power helping you wash.
Geico can help when you're locked down with their easy app and 24/7 help.
Dad, you don't have to make this so tough on yourself. Geico can help us get into our lost car. See?
Yeah. Where's the money? Yeah. Maybe it's just nostalgic for the good old days. Before we had Geico straight coverage and 24/7 help.
All set, guys.
Let's go again.
Whatever you need, from coverage to service, get more with Geico.
Right now, Sonic Shakes are half price after 7 p.m. when you order online or in the app. So save on your strawberry shake today, and your chocolate shake tomorrow, and your Oreo cheesecake shake the next day. Sonic half price shakes after 7 p.m. and online and app exclusive.
The following program is a collection of stooges talking about happenings in the sports world. It is meant to be comedic informative. The opinions expressed on this show do not necessarily reflect the beliefs of their peers, their boss, or ESPN. There may be some cuss words because that's how humans in the real world talk. If you are young, please seek permission before watching any further.
Why? This show stinks, and the fact that you listen, we are very, very thankful. The all-time leading tackler for the Green Bay Packers, you think? Yeah, your friend tells you something nice to change their life. Hello, beautiful people, and welcome back to our Humble Above, the Thunderdome, on this scheduled release Wednesday, May 15th, 2024. Hour 2 starts now. Sports. They really are, especially here in Indianapolis, Indiana, as both of our basketball teams are revving up. Yeah, the Pacers took a 30-point ass beating in MSG last night. That's going to happen when Kendrick Perkins is sitting next to Tracy Morgan and Billie Eilish and Spike Lee and then old buddy Starberry and John Starks are in the game.
Yeah.
They're playing with 7 players a couple different times. Those guys weren't wearing the uniform. They're on the wood in the. And then you got a ref who wants to be the hero at the Mecca. Okay. So obviously that's going to take place on Friday when the Pacers host the Knicks in Game 6 of the series. It's going to be a whole different story, just like it was on Mother's Day. Basketball showing up in a big way. So Stacey Clark selling out a building in Connecticut for the first time since 2003 for a Connecticut Central. Now, I know there's an entire generation of women's basketball stars that are going to take women's basketball to whole new heights. A league that is ready and excited for it is obviously awaiting and prepared with an abundance of talent that the world will fall in love with. But then this dumbass ref calls 2 quick fouls on the only reason everybody is there. Team that goes from 13 to 27 next year. She's 30 and 10 this year. Bucks games here at Los Angeles.
Fred fights dinosaurs, nigga.
Last night, we were staring down potential extinction of the Boston Bruins from this year's NHL playoffs, and instead, with their backs against the wall, Swayman stands on his head on his dad's birthday, and now we're heading back to Sunrise, pal, with an opportunity to extend. Congrats to the Bees.
Yeah, back to Boston.
He was in Sunrise last night. I forgot about that. I apologize.
Yeah, in Florida last night, back to Boston on Friday night. Look, this is exactly what we said yesterday. Geeky, first of all. See you later, Bob. Sorry about it. Don't drag. Bucket. But, I mean, this is what we said yesterday, okay? Look, down 3-1. If this is a Stanley Cup champion team, Chucky McAvoy, of course, you saw this one coming.
Some jersey yesterday.
Look at Bob, bitch. Shut up, Bob. But, once again, this is a Stanley Cup champion team. They're destined to come back 3-1. They're destined for Brad Marchand to make his heroic return on Friday night. And then for the Swayman to do what he did in these last 2 minutes, there should have been at least 2 goals from the Florida Panthers. A no look from Montour. I was even shitting my pants. Swayman, not worried about it whatsoever than this one. I mean, when you got some guy on the doorstep, no, you're not going 5-hole. You're not going between these legs on my papa's birthday, on Kenny Swayman's birthday.
My father.
You think I'm going to let a puck go 5-hole on my father's birthday?
I think about how my father's father felt on my father's birthday.
He'd be rolling over in his own grave, whoever Grand Lord Swayman is. But man, Grandma Swayman, you have to be pumped if you're the Bees. I feel great. I'm hoping I actually have to go back to Boston.
His nose. Stay there, play the game.
Swayman in Boston in person, but no, I feel really good. Need to get this one.
We've been talking about the officials in WNBA, obviously, what happened. Isaac Bennett's his name.
Yep.